لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثير طيبا مباركا فيه. نحمد الله تبارك وتعالى ونشكره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم ربنا فصل وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي ولا رسول بعد سيدنا حبيبنا كريمنا رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اتبعه بالهدى وبعد. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we praise Allah azza wa jal. We thank Him for this ni'mah, this blessing of the deen of Islam. We seek His forgiveness, for as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, that the human being has been created with weaknesses, so we are bound to make mistakes, we are bound to commit sin, though we try our best to minimize them. And so we begin by asking as well for the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that He help us do the amal salihat. He help us do the righteous deeds for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised He will reward us. And still at the same time, we ask for Allah's help in avoiding the amal sayyi'at, evil deeds. For surely without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no success. And so we seek the protection of Allah from the evil that might lurk within ourselves, as well as any evil that could arise from our actions. I testify that indeed there is nothing worthy of worship except for the one only God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He alone is the only being mustahaqqun lil ibadah, that has the right and deservingly so to be worshipped. And I also testify that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that he is the obedient servant and messenger. So we pray that Allah bless, exalt, and preserve our beloved messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, his family, and all of those who sincerely follow in the guidance with which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him. Ya ayyuhal ikhwa wal akhawat, oh my dear brothers and sisters, usikum wa nafsi bi taqwallah. I enjoin upon you and firstly upon myself fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For fear of Allah is healthy for the human being. Fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would punish those who deserve it is important, so that we, whom as we open have been created da'ifa, with weaknesses, will be motivated to avoid falling into the trap of our weaknesses and commit those things for which Allah would punish us, and rightfully so. And in His punishment, there is no escape. In the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no getting used to it. In the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it never ends. And that is the fire of the punishment that would come to those who deserve it after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wraps his world in His hand and He ends this thing. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us with taqwa, that we have a properly placed fear in His punishment, but at the same time, we have hope. At the same time, we are reminded that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa ar-Rahman, He is most gracious. Wa huwa ar-Rahim, He is most merciful. Huwa al-Kareem, He is most generous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants humanity to know that aside from the fact that they owe Him and that He doesn't owe them, And aside from the fact that he promises them that he will reward them, that though if they cross him, though if they fail to live up to their amanah, their responsibility, that he has the right to punish. And so we seek the protection of Allah from his punishment, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us when he gives us taqwa in order to avoid it. And to open today, I'd just like to say I appreciate having been offered the opportunity to speak here today. And I might be going off a little track from what I was going to talk about, but I think it's important. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed myself and many of these brothers here that have been here for a long time to be in this deen approaching or exceeding half of a century, more than 50 years. So we've seen it all. We've been everywhere. We've been overseas. We've been here. We've been in the hood. We've been in the burbs. We've been around. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like he says, who is Jabakum, he chooses whom he wants to be Muslim. We are first and foremost grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are we grateful? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us or shows us or instructs us on the significance and the benefits of being grateful when the first thing he teaches us in his opening chapter to say after Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is what? Alhamdulillah. Praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you have a great amount of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when you praise him, you mean it, that's your backstop from sliding back out of the deen of Islam. Because your appreciation of that deen that Allah blessed you to have is only going to be held on to by you as long as you want to hold on to it. You want to let it go? It goes. How many times have we seen those whom we thought were Muslims behave as if they were not Muslim? How many times have we seen across the globe our brothers and sisters from different nations behaving in ways that we cannot imagine? And they, in many cases, had the deen before we had it. And they, in many cases, had it generation after generation after generation. And we just, in many cases, the first generation. Maybe a second generation with our children. But what is the difference between a Muslim who is muhsin, who does the good, and the muhsin who is musii, who does evil? The difference is as to who holds on to the deen and who lets go of the deen. And that comes down to human nature. What's human nature? Man, you and I, human beings, we just gonna do what we want to do. If I don't want to do it, I ain't gonna do it. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. So what's going to make you do it? What's going to make you want to do what Allah wants you to do? You appreciate the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You hold fast to the hablullah, to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know that's the only thing that can pull you through this world that is full of zulumat, all different kinds of darkness, misguidance, evil, transgression, that for sure will get you out of this into the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For sure get you out of this into the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the habl of Allah. It's the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which itself constitutes the root of the deen of Islam. And so we hold fast to it. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to be in a very interesting time in the history of Islam. You could say the first 4-5 centuries of Islam, that was the pinnacle of the Muslim world. We were at our greatest. And unfortunately, you can say that since then, the Muslim world has allowed itself to go on decline. Now, how can it be that those people who's supposed to be us, that Allah bless and open their hearts to the deen of Islam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ijtabana. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose us. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this deen for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, and we say it over and over again, but does it sink in? When he says, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum deenakum, wa atmimtu alaykum ni'mati, wa raditu lakum al-Islam deena, that at that time, on that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected this deen. And he has completed his favor upon us, giving us the deen that he's pleased with, that deen that is known and named by him as Islam. And in so declaring, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, that's your solution that unlocks any problem you face in this world, for which you are definitely going to be challenged by in many ways. So that if you hold fast to it, you hold on to this deen of Islam that guides humanity through the depths of darkness into the light of Allah's guidance and his reward and his forgiveness, then it will help you clean yourself up. It will help you establish yourself in a straight way. It will be a shield for you against all the incitations of shaitan, all the incitations of those who are the helpers of shaitan, and make you able to walk through this earth without being dragged into the darkness, only because you did what? You held on to the deen of Islam. You held on to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so sometimes I think we don't understand how important even where we fit in the scheme of things. And so today I'd like to share a particular hadith with you from the Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which I'm sure you've heard before. But in it, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, نحن الآخرون الأولون نحن الآخرون الأولون يوم القيامة نحن أول الناس دخولا الجنة بيد أنهم أوتوا الكتاب من قبلنا وأوتيناه من بعدهم فهدانا الله لما اختلفوا فيه من الحق. Now the Prophet ﷺ said, and he's talking about us. He's talking about you and I. He said, نحن, we, Ummati Muhammad ﷺ, we should take this personal. We are the last, and at the same time, the first. We are the last, and at the same time, the first, when it comes to Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of resurrection. How so? نحن أول الناس دخول الجنة. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, telling us how special we can be if we hold fast to this deen. If we practice it without interruption, we don't fall in, we don't fall out. If we're sincere, doing everything to please Allah, purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, نحن أول الناس دخول الجنة. And as such, we're the first of all peoples who will be admitted into paradise. بيد أنهم أوتوا الكتاب من قبلنا. Even though those who came before us, who are the people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, for example, من قبلنا, have been given that before us, and they came before us, and that which we've been given was given after they already got their books. But, and the reason for this is, فَهَدَانَ اللَّهُ لِمَا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. And that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us, meaning you and I, if we know this deen and we live this deen, He's guided us to the truth about all the matters in which ikhtalafu fi, all those matters that they have obscured, confused, forgotten, and even changed and corrupted. And I'd like us to look at that because when we see what the Prophet ﷺ is, the picture he's drawing is that it is as if we are a sword of truth cutting through the world to clear up the darkness of the dhulumat for those who couldn't light a match if they tried, who don't have the source of light anymore because of what they did themselves to their own being. Because of what they did themselves to their own selves as regards to their relationship to their Creator. They broken their relationship with their Creator. They reneged on their promise to obey and worship Him. They corrupted what He gave them, so now they can't even get back to what they had in the first place. There was a ni'mah or a benefit in the first place. And so they need some intervention. They need somebody to step in. They need somebody to help them get out of their own misery. And who do you think that's supposed to be? It's not going to be them. Who do we think that's supposed to be? And I ask it a third time, who do we think it's supposed to be? Because when you look across the globe today, you see, and I see, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in prophecy, but it's more so today than ever, since time has lapsed many, many centuries since the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيَ النَّاسِ, that evil, fasad, transgression, injustice, just plain meanness is going to spread and smother the earth. How? بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيَ النَّاسِ, as a result of what has been done by the hands of men. In other words, the problems of the world that we're in today, that we have inherited, are the problems of the hands of our own selves having had created in the first place. And to understand this is, at first, it's a source of sadness. But at second, it should be a source of hope. Why would we say it's a source of hope? Because we're supposed to be the ones who came to this world to cut through the darkness, to set the record straight, to deliver a bayinat, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He sent the prophet with clarity, in order to heal, to correct, to clear up, and to help the people out of their own misery. That's our responsibility. But as a responsibility, how do we expect to accomplish that if we have allowed ourselves to, for the most part, isolate ourselves from the rest of society? How much involvement do we have in the day-to-day lives of these who are the kuffar, these who reject Allah, or these who are the mushrikeen, these who put partners to Allah, these who are even who are the munafiqeen, the hypocrite? What's going to make him decide not to be a hypocrite? What's going to make her not decide to be a hypocrite? Because even if you think the motivation of the hypocrite, they want to be in on the good that's going on. We don't even have enough good to attract hypocrites anymore. They don't even want what we got. So when we see that, it's supposed to tell us something. It's supposed to tell us something needs to be done to clear up and clean up the obstacles to us being what Allah said clearly. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Kuntum khayra ummah ukhrijat lin-nas. You're the best people ever brought out for humanity. Now, when I say this, and I know it is said many times, but does it really sink in for us? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts it in the past tense. Kuntum khayr. You already are the best of people. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is basing it on if you are true to your commitment to Him, then you're going to be a source of good. How do we often open our khutab? By narrating, by quoting from the Quran when we say, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We say, oh, you who believe, that's you and I. Say the word directed towards what's true. So when you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and I say, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's supposed to be true. And that truth is supposed to be your mobilizer. That's what's supposed to move you. Now, if you are the actuator of that belief, then you're going to be compelled to deliver to the world what it needs to pull itself out of the depths of darkness. You're not going to have a choice. You're going to be driven to do that. You're actually going to be honored to do that. Because you're going to understand that this is the key to good in the earth, and without it, not only would you not be able to accomplish that which good is good, nor can anyone else. And what kind of good are we talking about? We're talking about a good that is good in this world and good in the next world. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ. Allah says that the evil will spread in the earth because of that which will result from the hands or the actions of men and women. بِمَا كَسَبَتْ. Kasabat is an earning, is a way that you attain something in return for another thing. And in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying two things or reminding us of two things at once. Of course, on the physical plane, if you do this, then that will follow. If I push you, you're going to push me back. If I smile, you're going to smile back. If I ask for something and you give it, then I might return it with a payment or a thank you, chain reaction. But also, kasabat has to do with how's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to judge you. What is that angel writing in your book? Is it a bad deed? Is it a good deed? If it's a good deed, was it done for Allah or done for a riyat to be seen? So that if you're doing the good of the Muslim in this world, you bring the good to the world that you're in, and you become, past tense, kuntum khayra ukhrijat linnas, you become the best of people brought forth for humanity. And in so doing, you deliver good for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then rewards you in the next world, tenfold or more. You see, this deen of Islam is a precious thing. But like anything precious, if you don't nurture it, if you don't take care of it, you don't polish it, you don't reinforce it, you don't protect it from corruption or being defiled in any way, then you lose it. Then it becomes weakened. And in that weakness is your peril. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that without our hearts and our deen, and without us being able to understand our responsibility in the world, then the rest of the world will suffer. While on the other hand, if we understand our responsibility, if we're sincere and we're willing to do the work, we're willing to make the sacrifice, we're willing to pay the price to help the deen of Allah, then we have nothing to worry about, nothing to fear. Why? Because Allah says, in tansurullah yansurkum. If you help Allah, He's going to help you. وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُمْ. And he's going to establish your position. And no one will be able to move you off your good. The only thing they can do is join you in your good. And when you have that kind of element in the earth, and you have it in the numbers that equal the numbers that Muslims number statistically of 1.7 billion or more, then you can move the earth. When you are that one unit, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, that the believers are a single brotherhood. When you are that people, then anything that would challenge you cannot overcome you. But instead, you, meaning us, become the ones who supersede. But our problem is we're not moving as a unit. Our problem is we don't appreciate our deen. The problem is we look at it as another click on a cell phone to send off a notice that I made my salah. Let me see how much they count up for me. Instead of, what does Allah say? We may cancel that idea. Except instead of us putting our hands in this world and doing something with our hands, the kuffar are using their hands to do. The mushrikeen are using their hands to do. And for that reason, until we step up, there's no hope for society. So we need to be that hope. But the hope starts in our heart. Coming back to, we have a hope in the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, though we fear his punishment. And to have a healthy fear, that's to be motivated to do the good that then eliminates the necessity to be punished. قولوا قولوا هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم من كل ذنب وتوبوا إليه لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم ربنا فصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And so much for the conceptual. Let's talk about right now. And the beauty of it, talking about right now, the Prophet ﷺ did that 1400 years ago. For we have a hadith from Anas, radiallahu anhu, who said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أشراط الساعة أن يرفع العلم ويثبت الجهل ويشرب الخمر ويظهر الزنا. And that would be one version. And then another, we have where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also from Anas, and Anas called, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he heard the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying a similar hadith in another way, من أشراط الساعة أن يقل العلم ويظهر الجهل ويظهر الزنا وتكثر النساء ويقل الرجال حتى يكون ل50 امرأة القيم الواحد. The Prophet ﷺ said in the first reading, surely, and he's talking about right now, if we look around, we'll see it. From among the signs of the last day, among the signs of the last hour, that that knowledge is going to be lifted. وَيَثْبُتَ الْجَهْلِ, and in its place, ignorance is going to be established. وَيُشْرِبُ الْخَمْرَ, and the consumption of intoxicants will be plenty. وَيُظْهِرُ الزِّنَا, and for an open fornication and adultery will be done openly and plentiful. And then in another version, giving us a little more insight, where the messenger has been heard to say, that min Ishrat said, that from the signs of the last hour. And he puts it another way, that knowledge is going to be minimized, it's going to be taken slowly. We have other hadiths that explain that this is how this happens. Well, usually judgment, and in its place, ignorance will appear or supersede or overcome. And ويظهر الزنا وتكثر النساء ويقل الرجال حتى يكون ل50. And then there will be an explosion of a number of women on the earth, while the number of men will reduce or become less and less and less, until it will be such as if there were 50 women to one upright, strong, standing man. Now, this is obvious. I'm sure we see the intoxication on the earth. Kullu maysa khamr, as Umar said, that anything that intoxicates is in the category of wine or drinking. And so we have all the different chemicals and all the different ways of doing it, and then even the ones that are supposedly from plants and trees, and that they lace, and now they're making it even halal, or I shouldn't say halal, they're making it for themselves permissible, the consumption of marijuana and so forth. And so, in a way, we can see how true this prophecy of the Prophet ﷺ said, because, in saying the consumption of intoxicant, in saying and making it clear that it's going to overwhelm the world, if our eyes are open, we'll see that's what it is. You cannot walk anymore into a place without also being able to acquire an intoxicant of some sort or another. Or while the people you're around, they are intoxicated themselves, one way or another. Now, these are the people you have to live with. These are the people you're going to bump into. These are the people your wives and your children are going to bump into. These are the people that you have to live with in the same world that they're in, while you protect yourself from the damage they can do. And they're not even in their right minds. And they make sure they're not, because they continue to consume it. And so the Prophet ﷺ, by saying this, he's not just giving us a casual description. He's at the same time trying to remind us how serious this is. Because if you're in a world full of intoxicated people, you're in a world full of people who openly fornicate and pursue it. If you're in a world where people are transgressing without bound, then that's going to touch you in one way or another. That's going to be a threat for you one way or another. And so what are you supposed to do about it? This is the question that we all should be asking ourselves day in and day out. Because as long as this facade is spreading in the earth and we live in it, we should be thinking about and figuring out, what can I do about it? We should be just trying to figure out how to address it to help heal them, to give them the medicine they need in order for them to bring themselves out of it. Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, kuntum khayrun? You're the best of people. There ain't going to be no people after you. That's why it's past tense. There's not going to be any other people I'm going to raise for the people. Ukhrijat, who? Linnas, for the benefit of humanity. And the only way we're going to be that benefit, if we're willing to make the effort. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as we try to wrap up, has told us something that is very simple that would take care of, explain to us what we're supposed to do when the world is full of darkness, when there's facade spreading everywhere, when there isn't what you consider hope amongst the people of darkness, because all they have is more darkness. What is it that we're supposed to do? Well, what we're supposed to do has come to us in a very familiar hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. It's also contained in the 40 hadith of the Nawawi. But we have to translate it into action. For I'm sure we've read it many a time. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, and he tells the truth, مَا يُرَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرٌ فَيُغَيِّرُهُ بِيَدِهِ فإن لم يستطيع فبلسانه وإن لم يستطيع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. The Prophet ﷺ said, and in this, and as I said, he's putting us on notice. You see, we have to take this being personal. In this, he's putting us on notice. He said, whoever, and this is in the command form, whoever amongst you, minkum, yara, is seeing munkar, something evil, something that the Sharia of Islam, the deen of Islam's laws, that guide man to what is healthy for him or her, that guide man or woman to what it takes to fulfill their amanah to Allah, the responsibilities to Allah, which is al-ibadah, worship, to be able to live their lives day in and day out according to what they were created to do by their Creator, which is ta'at to Allah, to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any of you who are living like that, who sees something that is the opposite of that, then let him or her change it with their hand. So in them, Mr. Dear, and if you can, now that sounds soft, because the Prophet ﷺ was soft towards believers like he should be. But we need to be waking up. We need a little stronger. If you ain't tough enough to do it, the Prophet's saying, then be lisan, and change it with your tongue. Say something that can help to change it. Not just saying, say something. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. Oh, you believe, fear Allah, and say a word directed to the right. Then inform the people about the guidance of your Creator. Explain to the people the harm they're doing to themselves when they disobey their Creator. Alert the people that if they don't believe in their Creator, He's going to cancel them on the day of judgment. And they won't have a jawaz in the paradise. They won't have a visa in the paradise. He's only going to give them admittance into hell. When you see the people who indulge ignorance, indulge fornication, indulge spreading this facade in the earth, then talk to them and let them know it doesn't have to be that way. Spend time with them and let them see how you live so they can see they can live like that. Be their advocate when they do good, and at the same time, be their critique when they do bad. Be their friend in doing good, and show them the disapproval that you have that they have failed to live up to your lofty expectation. And this is because you got to remember the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to do that. So they're supposed to already see us doing it. They're supposed to know it can be done and that it's being done. They're supposed to know that it's not hard. It's just a matter of a decision. They're supposed to know that the more who do it, the easier it is for everybody. And so you're a recruiter. You're trying to bring them in. You're trying to welcome them. You're trying to help them. And so when we take Islam, a lot of times we make the mistake of being accusative of the deen. When we take the deen of Islam to the people, we're supposed to invite them. They're supposed to feel good about their interaction with us. That way we are the khayr ummah ukhrijat lin-nas. We're the best people for humanity. You know, when Islam was at its zenith, people in the earth who were suffering persecution came to the Muslim lands for protection. That's supposed to be continuing to be true until today. But then, as the Prophet ended the hadith, if you can't even do that, you don't have the heart to do that, or maybe you, on a lesser, let's say, negative way of understanding, maybe you don't think you know enough to say anything yet, then you have to at least change it in your heart. But the Prophet ﷺ says this is the weakest of faith. Now, we don't want to be the weakest in faith. Even the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-mu'minu qawi khayr wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if. Wa fi kullin khayr. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the strong believer, the believer that is qawi, a rajul qayyim, like in this signs of the last day that was mentioned here, the strong believer is better and more beloved by Allah than is the mu'min al-da'if, than the weak believer, the one whose belief is so weak that they can't say anything, the one whose weakness is so weak that they can't do anything about the wrong that they see, that they witness. But the Prophet hurries to add, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ, but in each of that kind is khair, is good. He's not putting you down, he's just letting you know there's a range, there are levels. And so we want to be amongst those that help these people to clear up their confusion. Because in a lot of ways they're confused and they're compounding their confusion, and in that confusion they're steeping themselves deeper in darkness. And so I'll just say as in closing for today, back to the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said in one description of the last signs of the hour, he said that the women will multiply to the point that it will be 50 women to one man. Now we might read that and we may say, looking around and statistically in the world, pretty much they may say the ratio of women to men is 2 to 1. So you might say, man, alhamdulillah, I believe in the Prophet. You might say, man, alhamdulillah, I know that's going to be something that's going to come to be. But it looks like it's far away. Because even if you try to say 5 women to 1 in a society, that would be a stretch. I say, think again. And I say this and I leave you with this. Look around you today and look at the pants that boys and men are wearing today. Aren't they tight? They can't hardly get them up their legs anymore. They're falling down, showing you that stuff so that they parade themselves like who parades themselves? Like women. They speak and talk with a femininity that is subtle but real. They have legalized same-gender relationship. They have made it so that if you look at the effect of what is going on in the dress, in the behavior, sometimes you talk to a guy, you can't tell what he is. You turn on TV, you can't tell, we're looking at a gay couple or... I tell you, I got to turn it off because I don't like to be tricked. I don't like to be gagged. I don't like to watch something and might be thinking, all right, I'm going to go along with this story, and then find out, oh, wait a minute, there's 2 dudes together. Oh, wait, that's 2 women. I don't appreciate that. But that's all that's going on now in the media. That's all that's going on now in the street, the way the people are dressing. You know, so not just the women are wearing skin-tight clothes, the so-called men are wearing skin-tight clothes. You walk outside, and, you know, we used to have a problem with the roving eye where you might think you see a woman and you might want to look, and then the hadith prophet, you want to get your luck as much before you get that second look that you weren't supposed to have. You were afraid to do it. You looking at the back of somebody because it might be a man. He turned around and said, oh, wait a minute. And you done invested your little heart and little desire right like that, and you done got burnt. You know? And that's right here, right now. So this hadith of the Prophet, he say 50 to 1. I'd say we approaching that. That's what I would say. All the more reason to understand time is running out. All the more reason to know, like we say, but it's true. The Prophet always spoke the truth. And so if we take what he said to heart, then we'll be amongst those who are protected from falling prey to those type of silly slights and scams that we be swept into by looking at these people and taking them for what they look like. They're not what they look like. Which we need to understand the difference between them and us. We are what we look like because we are what's in our heart. And so we make our hearts lead us, and then our hands will make the effort, and our tongues will make the effort, and we won't be left with falling back on our heart. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us strong in our faith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to see the good that we can encourage and promote to happen in the world that we find ourselves that is steeped in the dhulumat and the evil and the fasad, so that we can be a part of the good that changes the world instead of the world being a part of changing us. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our deeds. وقال ربكم ادعوني يستجب لكم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وآتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I apologize for being long, just trying to get warmed up.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا رحمه الله. In the tasbih of the sufuf, many forms of salah, it's time to make the rank straight, lead the rank ahead before starting a new rank, establishing the salah, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is a part of that. Straightening the lines is a part of establishing the salah. So, اعتدلوا رحمكم الله. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله ودعوا شهداءكم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. فإن لم تفعلوا ولن تفعلوا فاتقوا النار التي وقودها الناس والحجارة أعدت للكافرين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I ask you to forgive me for any mistakes I might have made. Inshallah ta'ala, I also ask you to give me a little slack for being too long. Yeah. Okay?